Welcome back to our third match of the day, and this is an incredibly crucial one for Impunity as they're going up against Hurricane Gaming right on their tails. A win here would pad them some extra room in that playoff contention, and it would also eliminate Sem9 from the postseason. So a lot of stakes here in this match, but a big thank you first, of course, to our sponsors in CTBC Bank and Caliber Gaming. Now, fans of Malaysia, fans of Singapore, and fans of the LST, you have got to be on your seats because this match could mean the fates for a lot of the players.
Yeah, of course, Sem9's slim playoff hopes are in the balance, as slim as they may. But Impunity can officially eliminate them from contention. And for Impunity themselves, as you mentioned, Hurricane Gaming also competing for one of those last spots for playoffs. So that's a direct competitor. If they win here, that puts more distance because that's also yet another win Hurricane Gaming can't get. And so we get to see the lineup: Quiet, Taco Face, Blaze, Pinway. I think the clear players for Impunity in their success has to be Quiet and Blaze. Blaze, you know, he had the whoopsie on the Zeri, but he's still a big win condition for the squad.
It absolutely is the hyper carry of the team. Taco, for me, has been a very promising youngster, and Quiet, sometimes he has his ups, sometimes he has his downs, but overall, when they win, Quiet's stats look rather amazing, and in losses, a little less so. So I feel like for this squad, consistency is definitely the key. And for Hurricane Gaming, it seems to be about communication. If you just run at them as a 5-man, I feel like Hurricane Gaming will not be able to respond, which is what we've been seeing a lot of the times. Of course, we're going to take a shot of ICU, the main carry of the team, dealing 29% of the team's damage from the top laner. Not something you see every day.
Also, something you don't get to see every day is the mid laner doing so little damage. But when it comes to the squad, it is about focusing all their efforts into that top lane. You see, even when Cha-Cha does get ahead, as he did last time against Impunity, they still don't play for him. So he was like he was 6-1, I believe, at one point in that game on the Rise pick, and yet they kind of passed them up when it came to allocating resources. It was still ICU on a rather far behind Jace that they continued to push, tried to force more into, and unfortunately in that game, I mean, it was against the Cyan, which is very difficult to move.
Taking a look at their stats here, we are putting all of our attention here into the top lane, as I feel like both of these players are kind of the do and die points for the team. The rest of the team is rather consistent, but the top lane, if they shine, they can really solo carry it to a win here. We'll see a lot more damage efficiency coming out from ICU. Of course, he gets a lot less resources. And in terms of the First Blood participation, also a lot more focus being thrown into ICU's part. We have mentioned Impunity is still primarily a bottom side focused team around Blaze and Pingwei. So we'll see if that comes into effect. I think whichever jungler goes to the top lane will be handsomely rewarded if they can get that lane snowball.
Yeah, both of these top laners have been very much feast or famine as we head into the draft. Of course, Tryndamere is not something ICU wants to deal with. And for the side of Impunity, they've shown that even when you give Hurricane Gaming the Jace, which is really ICU's big ticket champion, the side of Impunity, they've been able to counter it with the Scion. But when you leave Gwen available, it is still a very Gwen-dominated league.
Yeah, big questions of what the counters are going to be, and we see no hesitation. The Graves comes out, and this is very peculiar to Hurricane Gaming drafting, as we have seen the Graves being flexed between Olio and ICU. Impunity have to imagine that this could go both ways here.
In that same vein, for Impunity, they have also shown that they are willing to move that Gwen around, but of course a Lee Sin lock-in here would clearly remove that possibility out of play, and they will go ahead lock that in. I'd imagine they'll go ahead lock in an Ari for Faith as well. It's his most effective champion after the Rise, and Rise R8 taken away means will be okay. It will be a more utility focused mid laner for Faith. I think it makes a lot of sense for him. Of course, you can still throw it into that bottom lane, but support Galio somewhat falling out of favor and really matchup dependent. But as expected, it will be the Jace for ICU.
This is super refreshing as a draft to not see an 80 carry being picked up in the first two rotations from either side. Probably the only draft in the PCS where this has happened so far. Imagine that would be a big priority for both teams into the ban list, as we see the Jinx fall out for Blaze. Once again, Blaze has only been able to win on Jinx, so no surprises there in banning away. Seeing if Hurricane Gaming can buck the trend here, as Impunity do take away the Tom Kench with a pick-oriented composition coming out from their side.
I'd imagine for Impunity, they go ahead and ban away the Ezreal as well here if you're going to ban the Tom Kench.
Yeah.
For Hurricane Gaming, they just take away the clear 2 picks that Blaze has been playing. For Bang 2, he's played a number of champions that have not been called Jinx or Ophelia, so he's a little bit more familiar with this position. And yes, Impunity will deny away the Ezreal pick, which means for Hurricane Gaming, they don't have a ton of safe options when it comes to AD carries. Of course, you can still go for something like a Xayah, but of course, lethality Xayah, you need to get a lot more out of the early game to make this champ as effective as it can be.
Well, it's good for them. They're pretty much early game or bust with the Graves and Jace. I feel like it's pretty obvious that Hurricane Gaming are putting all of their eggs in the same basket. We're going to get a tempo game out of them. And how will Impunity respond? Kai'Sa was one of Blaze's best champions in the previous split. Also one of Faker's best champions, apparently. But they're not going to go for that just yet. Instead, trying to figure out if they want the Samira, something to go forward. Yeah, just like you mentioned. Or I like the Kai'Sa. I don't mind. A little bit weaker in lane, but definitely playable. And they will go with the Kai'Sa. Wow. Interesting sort of bot lane here. It's a pretty difficult bot lane matchup to maneuver, though.
Yes, that's the clear issue that's coming in for me, is that Rakan Kai'Sa, even in its heyday, was not a strong bottom lane. And it was a lot for these mid-game team fights because of the high mobility offered by Rakan and Kai'Sa. But now that, of course, their lane phase has been nerfed even more, against the duo of Xayah Leona, yes, well, actually, the Leona has a bit of a mini counter to the Rakan. So Impunity, once more, they kind of read what the other team wants to do with their support pick, and they go ahead deny it away. But it feels like they kind of hampered their own attempts to play the game with these preemptive takeaways.
We did see that with the Tom Kench. They took away that from Woody, and then Woody just slammed in with the Renata. This time around, I do feel like Rakan still works pretty well with the Galio, so you know I'm not gonna fault them.
The
overly much
composition fit makes a lot of sense, right? But now you're trying to get out of lane against Leona and Xayah. And Xayah right now, very much more focused on just slamming you in lane. And the thing with Kai'Sa is she, in her current iteration, is not very good in lane.
We saw something, a common thread in our first two games, and that was Xayah winning the 2v2, getting a serrated Dirk and tier at 5 minutes and just putting a lid on the game. So I hope that we're not going to get the same thing, though it would make our standings a lot more interesting. As Hurricane Gaming, if they find a win here, it would be their first win outside of the Sem9 matchups. Both of these teams have played their full set of games against Sem9, so there are no easier matches to look forward to. This is do or die for them.
It's only uphill battle from here, but if you look at these drafts, Hurricane Gaming having essentially 3 winning lanes. Even this Rise, you can say it's a wash, but at the very least, you're able to shove out the lane pretty effectively, even into a Galio. Galio also kind of just doesn't care about the matchup, but you have early pushing lane in the Jace, and you have early power in that bottom lane, so Alio kind of has a free pickings when it comes to just trying to apply pressure onto the map, which is not what you usually say about this man.
We'll see if there's any shenanigans that do manage to manifest here, as Impunity are trying to run around and search for ICU. ICU is going to hug the inner part of his tri-brush, so stay relatively safe. And Impunity are not going to leave any wards top either, so they're just going to come back. Taking a look at the setups here, we do have Blaze with the Hella Blades. I didn't want that to sound too similar. And Faith running the Predator here. So walk me through some of these setups and what are Impunity trying to accomplish in the early game?
Yeah, for Faith, it's about these roams, early roams here, trying to cheat priority, of course, with the Predator, being able to hit these side lanes really, really quickly. So we need to see Taco Faith team up very early on. Maybe Pinway joins in the action. But, I mean, you can see Blaze's approach with his Summoner spells. He's got Cleanse. He understands that the amount of CC potential is really, really crazy here onto him in particular. Down in that bottom lane, you have to deal with the Blade Caller. You have to deal with the Leona kit. And in these team fights, like, they're a pretty low damage squad. It really just comes down to Quiet and Blaze to do the team fight damage, and if Cha-Cha ever gets onto Kaisa, the Kaisa doesn't ever get to play the game.
Yeah, this is very low range, and as we were mentioning in terms of the composition, Impunity is forward only. I don't think they have a recourse if they are the ones that are being engaged
good
upon.
into that.
That's true. That's true. So, even more points for Hurricane Gaming? Could it finally be happening?
This could be their first non-Sem9 dub, which would be very good for Hurricane Gaming, but also incredibly detrimental for Impunity.
Currently, Impunity would still hold a 1-game advantage, even if they dropped Hurricane Gaming. But you never want that gap to close in too closely, as we have taking a look across the board on the trades here. ICU did find some good trades onto Quiet in the top side. Meanwhile, bottom lane, they did start in lane first a little bit earlier, as we did have a leash from Blaze and Pingwei. So to be expected, Bang2 and Enhao do have control over that wave. So just looking across the board, the 3 winning lanes, as you have mentioned from Hurricane Gaming, are starting to take effect.
Yeah, and the only big option besides some of these early roam timings coming in from Taco and Faith from the side of Impunity, they're really only 5v5 opportunity is that first big team fight around a Rift Herald or that first or second Dragon. I feel like their window of opportunity to snowball the game is incredibly small with this composition. Of course, they could just have better execution, and that's something that, you know, for Hurricane Gaming has never been their strong point. So still, even with a worse composition, it is possible for Impunity to find advantages later on in the game, even after they've been outscaled.
I have never been a fan of dig yourself into a hole and then jump out of said hole strategies. I just feel like that's always a very... it's a very circuitous route to success. I would much rather just go like, okay, I have a winning lane, I'm going to roam my winning lane, and that's how I'm going to find catches. But
I'd rather be the king of the hill, right?
Yeah, yeah. You want to be on top of the ledge and just like kicking down people and stepping on their fingers and just telling them to let go and drop down. Like that's usually how I like to play my drafts. But we'll see. As you mentioned, there is tremendous amount of mid-game explosiveness that could come out of this composition with the Rakan, the Galio, and of course the Kaisa just flying in with the Killer Instincts. That's a combo. The old Season 8 Uzi combo that we wanted to see. And by the way, they didn't win Worlds that time around, so it's kind of a foreshadowing.
Another thing is just like Blaze. I wonder what kind of build he's going to go for. We've seen a number of times Crown be the build.
True.
So more AP focused. But if you look at that composition, AP is already a plenty in that comp, right? You have the Gwen up in the top side. You have a Galio in the mid lane. And then you've got like a Lee Sin who doesn't necessarily deal a high amount of AD when it comes to that mid-late game. Yes, he can have some pop-off, but it's very contingent on his early game. So I expect to see some sort of, Gale Force or Kraken Slayer approach here this time from Blaze. And if he does anything else, I'm going to be very, very critical.
It definitely doesn't feel like a composition that would work with Crown of the Shattered Queen. It seems like a much more, as we mentioned, go forward, get the kills,
all
and
in.
snowball.
You don't get time to sit back and poke with Kaisa W. You can't do that. It's all or nothing. They have to, when they see an opportunity, they have to go.
It's the assassin part of the Kaisa. It's not the TFT Kaisa where it's just like, I'm going to stack Morellos and wait on Social Light. So when we did, I know you play the game. I saw that laugh on you. I know.
Slowly whittle them down with Morello.
Yeah. No. It's not that game plan for sure on this one. Okay. So another thing I do want to mention about is the mid lane matchup, which is I think is really interesting because we have Ryze and Galio. Both are trying to roam at the same time, and you have Cha-Cha and Faith, which are both role players. So, who's going to get the first hit in? That's kind of my question. Like, what are the conditions for either the Realm Warp to work or for the hero's entrance to work?
Yeah, I mean, certainly you would give the slight advantage to Faith since he's able to cover Faith on the Galio. Since he's able to cover a little bit more distance with his ultimate, and for the Ryze Realm Warp, I think it's going to involve him just being able to crash wave a lot faster and rotate without having to give up too much in that mid lane, and force, at the very least, Faith, if he's going to ult, to give up something in that mid.
Right, we'll see if Faith is the one that gets the first strike in. As with these compositions, first strikes are very important to the overall success.
First strike win.
Oh no! Like the first strike in terms of like the teams, the 5v5s, not the rune. Just want to clarify myself in that regards, as we do have Taco heading towards the top lane. Does spot out Alio and does have a level advantage, so could just straight up take the fight. And Alio actually ease forward right onto him. So Taco very happy to find the 1v1. Gonna try to body block. Alio will find his way into the secondary tower.
Can be a collapse coming in from both solo laners though, and actually they're not going to collapse for it. Very interesting that they kind of let Taco off in that moment, but at the same time, I guess ICU just, I don't even know, because it looks like he's not going for a recall timer. He will be able to stop the back coming in from Quiet, but usually if you're not responding, you're just prioritizing your own recall timer, but he's not even going for that. So Alio, he's just going to lose out. A little bit unfortunate there. And now this Crab's going to get contested. He's not going to be able to get it.
Slow goes down. We have the flash being expended right off the bat from Alio, and this looks pretty bad. Despite a triple lane win in the early phases, Hurricane Gaming don't actually secure any scuttles, which is kind of perplexing.
Oh man, that is incredibly perplexing because of course you had the opportunity to collapse onto Taco topside, and if you're able to do that, then this bot lane play wouldn't have happened, right? Because then Alio you would at least force the recall or later recall coming in from Taco, and he wouldn't be able to make it for that particular scuttle. And also Cha-Cha didn't have mana in that particular moment, which means that they can't make that rotational play over. And now Pinway maybe look for the engage.
If Taco's they don't back at the same time, it will be a 3v2. Enhow stunned into place. The ignite goes down. Can Bane2 find the blade collar to stop this offensive? Oh, no, and a beautiful Q by Taco, but he's gonna get stunned right in front of the minion. Still some auto attacks going through. He will stay alive. So flash and heal burned from the enemy bot lane for just an ignite. Still a strong win for Impunity.
You can see that there's some trust issues still in even just that bottom lane, because you would expect Bang2 to go ahead block that skill shot coming in from Taco, because I mean, he's out of mana. He shouldn't be staying around for this next minion wave regardless. So you're on a recall timer. You really just want to make sure your support doesn't have to burn flash in that instance. Still, and how burns the flash in that case, and that means this bot lane becomes a lot more difficult to just kind of continue punishing. And so far, it's been a slow early game, and that's not what you want to see from a bot lane of Xayah Leona into a relatively, not just relatively, very weak bottom lane of Kai'Sa and Rakan.
It's definitely true, but this is the big item breakpoint. The tier plus the serrated Turk breakpoint. If you don't win at 5 minutes, you can still win at 9. So we'll see how Kai'Sa and Blaze can fare into this one. It's been very rough for all of our matchups going up against this Xayah, especially around this minute mark. And meanwhile, in the top lane, we see a very sizable lead from ICU as well, especially in that top trade. He's not going to be able to force out the... well, he is going to get a bit more turret damage down. And we now have the jostling for the bottom side of the map. This is going to be a pushing wave for Hurricane Gaming. Both mid laners looking for potential blues. And now we have the engage. Pingwei does not land initially onto Bane2. Light taps from both sides. I would say a small win on the side for Hurricane Gaming.
And so far, we've got a lot of lethality from Hurricane Gaming Clement. Look in that inventory. It's a lot of tiers and a lot of Dirks. 3 Dirks, 3 tiers. Something you're not going to see a whole lot of, but you know, it makes a lot of sense, right? Because this is a very explosive composition when it comes to damage from the side of Hurricane Gaming, and at the very least, they match up pretty well in power spikes against Impunity. This might be the early fight that we're looking for, as it's going to be a contest around this. But Alio, he dashed!
He quick draws forward. He's just going to get obliterated for first blood, and this could snowball right into the Herald as well. Interesting play for the red right there. So he had all the pieces around him, but if he just waited a little while longer, that didn't really need to happen. Oof, kind of a rough start again.
For sure, that play is really just autopilot coming in from Aliao. You know mid lane is missing. You haven't gotten word of where that jungle is as well, so you just gotta play a little bit more conservative.
The double knockup from the Justice Punch comes in. Enhow gets his flash. Oh no, he didn't flash there. But Cha-Cha does have to flash away, and now ICU is trying to make sure that this Herald isn't an easy take. A lot of damage traded back and forth. We have to give them credit on that one. Zaliel does use the collateral damage right there. And interestingly enough, Impunity, despite the earlier strike, they do have to walk back, and the more time they spend in a 4v4 formation, the happier Bane2 has to feel on that bottom side. If you look at Blaze, he's almost dead.
Yes. Exactly. He's just slowly going to get chipped down by this Xayah. This pick of Kai'Sa we saw in the past at Worlds, and when it was the Kai'Sa Xayah handshake. It's a very snowballing matchup because of how both AD carries can play incredibly safe, but Xayah definitely has a lot more tools at the moment because of her current builds. And I mean, Rift Herald is obtained by Impunity, but what can they do with that? That's the real question, because so far the lanes are playing out almost expected. Although ICU not quite as far ahead as you'd like to see.
Still even on the CS, but during that entire Herald sequence where Impunity found First Blood and got Herald, they actually lost the gold lead. We saw Bang2 able to overtake with close to a 20 CS advantage plus 2 plates. So again, that's, you know, I'm a little bit doubtful that that Herald take was actually successful. It seemed that they just took a little too long, and now we have the collateral damage plus the easy slam down onto Quiet. As easy as you could like. They're good coordination from Alio and ICU. Something we haven't seen them do a lot of, but that gives me hope.
And their power spikes are really lining up, right? Because now ICU with these 2 plates, with that extra kill, should be well positioned to get his own Eclipse power spike. And I mean, Alio, he's going to be a little bit a ways, but once he gets that completed for himself as well, this first team fight is like really just the game and the balance for the side of Impunity, because if they get a poorly timed engage and all that damage just unloads, that's
no
problematic.
Flash, Everfrost onto 1, but still gets kicked back into the delivery system. Free Herald drop here from Impunity. Well done on that side. As we do have Enhouse coming in, looking for the stun, but doesn't find it after the cleanse. Pingwei might not be so lucky. Ignite ticking down, but he won't die.
Yeah. Okay. Dive. So long.
Hurricane Gaming, come on. The piecemeal feeding of the mid jungle over to Impunity. Forces ICU here, and Bang2, whoa, flash over the wall into the kill onto Blaze, doesn't even need his support, and how flashes for nothing. The double kill over, and they're just trading sides between these 2 teams. Mid jungle for you, AD bottom side for me.
And top lane for me.
Yeah, might be taking a little bit more though. That was a massive trade, taking Quiet down to 30% HP on the first trade. We are seeing flares all across this map. Let's watch Bang2 get his action in on this trade.
And this is why the Kaisa is not a pick anymore. The Xayah is just so impressive in lane, and once more Impunity get a little bit too big brain for their own good, because again, this Rakan pick was a denial pick from Impunity, and seeing the Xayah locked in. So they were like, all right, we'll jump ahead of the play, we'll lock it in for ourselves, and Pinway on the Rakan just hasn't really helped their cause so far. Of course, can still wombo pretty well into the Galio. We haven't seen that come into play quite yet, but from a lane phase standpoint, it's been a very, very unfortunate sequence of events.
See how Hurricane Gaming decide to play out this 4v2. We have Cha-Cha rotating into the bottom side. Meanwhile, Quiet might find himself in a bit of trouble here. If he does go for the Krugs, that could be a very dangerous path to take. He does go over, and we will see Alia with the red buff just chasing him away. Free tower on the top side. Meanwhile, Impunity will have to just settle for this Drake. They can't push in the bot lane fully, so that will be a more advantageous trade, in my opinion, for Hurricane Gaming. Let's see if Taco can find something.
Yeah, go into the it's also a 14.5 minute first dragon, right? So that's pretty late.
That was...
He's gonna get massive play call. Holy.
Okay. They do get the bottom, at least, I think. So...
It's just a tower trade.
Yeah. Could have gone a lot worse, for sure, but they do get the all and the tower.
it is what it is. A whole lot of flashy moments, but in that case, it just comes down to a whole lot of nothing. So, as it stands, gold completely even, but again, for Impunity, this is a composition that feels like it needs to get rolling sooner rather than later, and only being even is not it. And you're also not threatening the Dragon Soul because of how late that first dragon did come. So you don't have a way to force Hurricane Gaming to opt for that early 5v5. They can take things slow. They can take a very slow approach and be like, all right, if we don't hit 2 accelerated shock blasts coming in from the Jace before the fight starts, we'll just go ahead and disengage. They don't have to pigeonhole themselves into a fight at this moment.
We finally are going to see the 5v5 start to happen here. Taco has to dash out.
Okay.
The fight for the second Herald will commence. And Blaze is going for the full damage route. Most likely Executioner on the cards for him. Serrated Dirt complete. And this is the time that we've been all waiting for. Can Impunity actually pull off this Wombo Combo? Quickness is there. They are looking for the angles. They will take down this Herald, relatively uncontested. Very safe attempt right there. And yeah, Impunity, they don't even need to go aggressive here to get the lead.
At the same time, though, Hurricane Gaming, though, they will be able to get that mid priority and take away that mid tower. So, all in all, it's going to be a pretty even trade because at this point, the second Herald is pretty much just we get to secure 1 tower because of the extra bonus damage, and that's pretty much it. So, Hurricane Gaming being able to secure themselves mid tower pretty much makes that trade a wash. Unless if, of course, Impunity are able to secure 2 towers or a tier 2 tower, bank 2, forced to use ult.
Featherstorm's away. Good find there by Impunity. It does look like this top tower is going to be forfeit by Hurricane Gaming. Now they know there's a lot of members in their jungle for sure. We'll see if the approach comes through. There is a potential TP play coming in from ICU if he does choose to defend. And it's kind of an awkward Herald as they do need to wait for the first tower to drop. And it's going to take the long route away. Quickness here, but it's stopped by the Bloom plant. Oh, the blast cone is a hero right there for Alio. And that's a massive ultimate down, a big piece of the Wombo combo. Let's see if the Herald Charge at least goes through. It looks like it. Oh, no. No, it doesn't go through, and Impunity's offense is completely stalled out.
Yeah, they get absolutely shut down in that instance. ICU, I don't think he'll be able to secure this tower, but gets a lot of damage down, and that's a lot more than you can say what happened topside, Clement.
Yeah, it wasn't still a straight tower trade, top for bottom, but they expended a lot more resources. The Herald drop was very questionable as the first tower didn't go down. I think there was some miscommunication. Kwai was actually trying to deny the minion wave there instead of full push. So, yeah, Impunity seems like they were kind of all across the board on that play, and it doesn't end up as nicely as it could have been. In the meantime, we do have ICU going very close to finishing his mirror mana. That's going to be a big power spike to look for. And also on Bang 2 as well. So we have Hurricane Gaming about to get to their zenith in terms of their power heading into this Hextech Dragon.
Yeah, and Cha-Cha, depending on what he's sitting on gold right now, he could be close to completing his tier item. Not too far off from getting that completion. So this is really a huge 2-item power spike for them. Unfortunately, it doesn't line up at the same time as the second dragon. But for third dragon, which is really the only thing you're concerned about as Hurricane Gaming, they will be extremely difficult to deal with. So now it just comes down to Impunity. How well are they able to play? Because Quiet can definitely ruin the side of Hurricane Gaming, and Taco as well.
Oh, Taco is going to bring some friends to the fray here, but doesn't get the knockback onto the Dragon's Rage. ICU able to escape. The Pingway is there for him. How long will he survive? Everfrost goes down, and he dies. 3-man gank squad onto the bottom side. ICU once again sent to the ICU.
Yeah, there was little bit of discombobulation there because you did have the teleport coming in from Chatra, and ICU ends up going away from his mid laner rather than trying to pass back towards the Rise. A little bit unfortunate. And I mean, this is kind of why Hurricane Gaming are only 2 wins, and that their only 2 wins have been against M9, right? It's because in these key moments they have also failed on execution. Impunity, for the most part, have had slightly better execution points, and they're a little bit more cohesive when it comes to macro play.
Yeah, to be fair, I feel like ICU took the correct route, considering that the Galio was coming down on his face. So I actually feel like he played it quite well. It's just he probably shouldn't be overextending outside of vision in the first place. That was in my eyes kind of the cardinal sin.
Yeah, it was Doom play from start to end, but the fact that he also ends up expending Flash does feel pretty bad for this next fight.
And he is a big part of that damage. Mirror Mana's coming out, but no skill shots landed right there. That would have been huge if it did find Blaze. Could have potentially taken him down to half HP, and just as a friendly reminder, he's not running heal or healing. So those could really hurt there if they do find just one poke onto Blaze. So far, Impunity are starting to take control of the map. They are using this pick pressure to kind of force their ways in side lanes, and Quiet being down in lane is a thing of the past. He is starting to get towards that Gwen territory into the late game where he's just completely immune. So we'll see if ICU can survive this one. Does have a lot of wards this time to cover his flanks, and will stay safe at least for now. Taco going in for the kick, but doesn't get behind ICU. So ICU once again outplaying the Dragon's Rage quite nicely.
Yeah, and now there's possible opportunity to turn, right? You see claps starting to come in from both of these squads, but unfortunately Cha-Cha on a recall, he's going to be very far from the action, but we'll see how the setup comes in, because we do have Dragon coming up in 100 seconds. That'll be, of course, the next big fight to break out, and it could be really just a game-deciding fight, as whichever team gets... if either team gets a big victory in this fight, that is massive momentum to just then make a play for that Baron, right? At 23 minutes, Baron has spawned, so if you win 4 for 1, that does mean not only the Dragon, but the Baron, and then additional gold from being able to push with Baron.
This is going to be such an exciting fight. Hurricane Gaming, triple mana stack items completed for a massive 2-item power spike. But in the meantime, Impunity, they have the map control, and they have the one-shot potential with their composition. So let's look at the approaches here. Infernal Soul is going to be very good for both teams. What do you want to see out of both sides on setting up this Drake?
For Impunity, if they're able to get control of these choke points, which is a little bit harder given the fact that it is Infernal Soul, so Infernal Rift adding a lot more space to work with. But if they're able to get choke control, it's so difficult for Hurricane Gaming to push through these choke points because the Galio ultimate eats the entire space. So I like the setup coming in from Impunity, and Hurricane Gaming, they're also running, right, quad range composition. So they need poke to land in order to approach. And the nice part is, Blaze, while he did get poked out, does have red buff, so that will provide some healing in that regard, but they can't keep eating poke coming in from ICU's Jace.
This is the moment of truth. One Shock Blast did force Blaze back, and Hurricane Gaming are setting up on vision control.
You have to be careful about the flanks.
they look a little bit hesitant on if they want to stay here or not. Faith is popping his Predator, coming in from the side. They do get the Infernal Soul. Bang 2 has to use his Featherstorm very early into the fight. Get cast out by Anyway, but it doesn't matter. Aliel is still doing tons of damage. He's going 1v1 versus the Blaze. Meanwhile, on the top side here, Enhouse stays alive. Aliel wins the trade, and Impunity are getting destroyed. There's still 2 members left. Cha-Cha gonna take the Realm Morph, try and get the catch. ICU has the red buff. Can he find the auto attack? The flash in from Cha-Cha. Impunity, the Taco only one alive, trying to take ICU as a surfboard, but doesn't make it through. And Machi17 appears on your screen. I'm not really sure why. Oh, ICU was on that Academy team. And that is Hurricane Gaming with a beautiful team fight.
Hurricane Gaming, with their item differential at this point in the game, and also just how that fight turned out. You get to see the engage. Really nice flank angle coming in from Faith, but again, there's a lot of safety coming in from this Hurricane Gaming squad, right? You have the Featherstorm coming in from the Xayah, providing a lot of stall potential. You're also incredibly tanky on the Leona and the Rise. And then ICU played a very passive position from his angle, which allowed him to avoid most of the engage as well. So good approach to the fight coming in from Hurricane Gaming, and this composition has clearly expired from Impunity, and they're going to have to get really creative with some of these catches to then snowball into that Baron. Unfortunately, Hurricane Gaming, it wasn't a large enough win for them to transition into a Baron take, but you'll still take the victory, denying yet another dragon, preventing Dragon Soul, and now you've got clear advantages.
Hurricane Gaming gonna push 5v4, still trying to land the poke. They don't find anything. Now Taco is looking for an engage here, as we do have Quiet on the sidelines, but he is pinged out, so Hurricane Gaming very well aware of the flanking potential of the Gwen. Things are getting so desperate right here. Taco actually goes for a very risky Dragon's pick. Doesn't find the Sonic wave and has to back out immediately on only 30% HP. That was the most obvious angle ever for Lee Sin to kind of attempt that. And he does get punished severely for that one.
Yeah, now we're starting to see the drawbacks of course, running that Lee Sin in this composition is that when you're this far behind, you don't have the extra space on the map to come in from a flank angle. And yes, that is an incredibly vulnerable composition. If you kick any of those backline members, except for maybe Cha-Cha, they will just blow up. But getting access to that backline, a very, very difficult task at this point in the game. And man, it is looking good for Hurricane fans for them to make their way back into this.
Oh boy.
But a very fed Taco, still a possibility. Unfortunately though, he's transitioning into essentially a full tank build, as it's looking like a third item Randuin's. And it will also limit his effectiveness at this point in the game.
I don't want to say it until it actually happens, because we've been here before. We've seen games where Hurricane Gaming feel like they're about to win, and suddenly the team fight just goes terribly wrong for them. So,
they claw
I know Malaysia is
victory.
holding their breath. But, excuse me?
They claw, what was the quote? They claw...
they snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely happened before. And especially against a Gwen, we know that's always a possibility. This comp does not hold up very well to Gwen just charging in onto them. We do have the next strike up in 40 seconds. Hurricane Gaming, once again, going to have an earlier setup and their opponents here. In the previous team fight, it was Blaze just taking one shot blast to the face, which gave over Hurricane Gaming all of the control here. They have to be extra careful this time around, and I'm still waiting to see a good combo from Impunity, but I think this time they need to reconsider their targets. I'm not even sure if Xayah is the go-to one they want to take care of, because ICU did 5,000 damage in that last team fight alone.
Yeah, there's just so much safety on the targets that you would traditionally target, but Alio offering
does
himself.
flash back. Here comes the Hero's entrance, but Pingwei is already dead. Enhao will join the fray next. Cha-Cha on the side lanes, but it looks like Impunity might have overextended right here. The kickback does find the kill, but that's the entire team! They used all of their firepower on 2 targets, and Hurricane Gaming are more than happy to take that one in stride. They're just charging down onto the base. Could this be the game? Still 32 seconds on the respawn timers.
280 carries.
Yeah, and this is a very fast takedown. Could we be seeing Hurricane
carries?
Gaming
They have a
finding
cannon
their
minion.
third
This
win?
is very possible, Clement.
Pingwei still has the flash and ignite, but he has to make a hero's play right here. Cha-Cha's taking a lot of turret shots down there. Bang2 is going to get ignite. And oh no! What? This isn't happening, right? This can't be true. Hurricane Gaming, they can't end. Pingwei has the save.
Oh, okay. Well, you remember that phrase that we just mentioned?
The snatch actually happens. They were so close to the win, but they tanked turret shots. There is a TP trade here. Fate's still trying to look for Bang2, but he will give up the chase after the
Could be a Baron tank. They don't have a lot of damage for this Baron, but they can certainly try it, as Blaze is at 3 items. And I mean, we got to see the damage chart. Bang2 was just smashing the team fight. They changed their priorities, and the result was still the same. They will be able to get themselves a 3rd dragon because of that overextension coming in from Hurricane Gaming, as they weren't able to finish the game, which means that they're forced on a recall timing, and it perfectly lines up with that next dragon. But we can clearly see Impunity just don't have the damage left to finish off these team fights. Yes, they got snowballed ahead, but your composition has hit a wall. Faith is trying to change that by going for the Shadow Flame. However, I think at this point it just makes more sense to go for the Void Staff, given how many levels are on everyone in the game. The natural resistances might just overtake that. But at the very least, you know there's a lot of shields coming in because it is Eclipse running on pretty much all those carries. So you can get full value out of the Shadow Flame in this mode.
You know, 40% magic resistance shred is what is it? It's probably like 18 on most of these targets, but full Shadow Flame would be I think 20. So yeah, maybe Shadow Flame. Yeah, could definitely
you get
see
a little bit more AP, but again, like Galio's ratios aren't nuts.
True. We'll see what we get out of those team fights here, but I think the critical thing for Impunity is that they have to catch more people than just one, and it can't be Alio. I'll be honest, I don't think Hurricane Gaming care if Alio dies first of these team fights.
It makes a lot of sense with his build too. Like, all he has to do is press Q and R, and if he dies afterwards, like, it is what it is. You're all about that burst damage.
Going for this. I see with a late TP, the Baron could just be down, but they are putting themselves in a very dire situation, and once they get the TP, Impunity instantly flood out of the situation. They're like, we're going away from this one.
Alio just instantly turns onto the Baron buff, but
he's taking a lot of damage, though.
Yeah, that wasn't the play.
There's a realm warp towards base.
But all they have to do is just, like, keep them interested and push mid. But now they're a little bit disjointed in their approach. Now Cha-Cha and ISU, they have to go ahead, back off. Now you can turn in.
What? ICU? Oh, ICU actually gets TP'd away from the scene. They didn't go mid. Cha-Cha should definitely go mid with that realm warp. It's not going to matter, though, and they're actually going to get the collapse here.
Oh, Pinway has a good angle, though.
Everfrost goes down.
Engage on the tanky member.
Onto one, but Taco with the kickback onto 2. They instantly kill Alio for no damage done on the other side. Blaze will be the target, but there are Raptors blocking for him, and Impunity wins big on this scuffle. Bang2 has to run away. Faith Flash Everfrost doesn't land, but he does get the taunt, and down goes Hurricane Gaming. There was a lot of dancing back and forth, but at the end of the day, Impunity are the ones now charging down onto the base.
Oh dear. This was...
I don't care what anyone says, this is the best game of the PCS.
This has been an entertaining game, and I think we're still going to get more gameplay, Clement, because their health bars are low enough that if ICU hits an accelerated shock blast, he can instantly just kind of EQ, jump in, transform, hammer form, and dunk on all of them. But now they're going to turn on to Baron. They should be able to secure it. They burn it fast enough at 35 minutes into the game, and now it's just a matter of, do they want to fight afterwards? I don't think it's going to happen, but ICU does force them to reconsider their recall positions.
All right, so we're going to get a replay of that
This
game again.
Not it.
Yeah, this was a bit over-aggressive in Hurricane Gaming for sure.
But now, yeah, the engage comes in, and really just a beautiful kick angle coming in from Taco. It really just came down to, things got really hectic for Hurricane Gaming, and because of that, of the chaos, they lost track of where Taco was, and they didn't take those, you know, careful approaches that they had in earlier fights to be like, hey, whatever happens, we make sure we deny Taco a good kick angle. That time, things just got way out of hand that they lost track of where that Lee Sin was.
Taco found a beautiful three-man's Dragon's Rage, and Alio actually dies, only doing one auto attack worth of damage in that fight. So massive props to Taco. We are approaching the Infernal Soul for Impunity. If they take this one down, that pick composition is just going to be way too powerful to deal with.
That could be the trade we're looking for.
Ooh, you're right. As we have ICU charging back to base, Impunity are just going to waltz in. But let's see where they actually go with this one. It's going to be 5-man into the top lane. ICU actually charges forward. That could be a massive bait. A huge mistake there. Impunity now 5v4 onto the opponent's base. And Taco, once again, he's looking for the angle.
Easy
flanking. Finds the Sonic Wave. The Hurricane Gaming do back away. This time Taco might have bit off a little bit more than he could chew. Quiet is coming back. They're looking for the Nexus Towers. Bang 2 has to defend. He's walking right in melee range, though. But they do take down Ping Wave first. The damage is still going through. Fate might be dead, too. And the HP bars are so incredibly low. But they can't finish them off. Gwen is immune. Strikes again. They stay alive. Fate is still there, and crucially, Blaze, the AD carry, is chipping away at the base. Bang 2 plus, and now have to finish this. Executioner goes down. The support is dead. Bang 2 one left alive, and Impunity are going to prevail. They take Hurricane Gaming down. They eliminate Sem9. The Kuala Lumpur Hunters go down, and the white flag as well. Impunity claw themselves back from a very messy and dire situation to win the game.
There are no words to express the roller coaster of emotion that just went through both of those squads. But we did outline that even with the composition advantages offered by the side of Hurricane Gaming, there was always that possibility that mis-execution would throw certain things to the fan. And I think we saw stuff hit the fan.
Those two last engages were so willy-nilly from Hurricane Gaming. They were like, I don't see anyone behind this. I might as well try. And that was kind of the downfall of this team. They had such a good power spike. They were poking people out. And you could tell that Hurricane Gaming, even when the combo came in, most of the time they could only find one person with the heroic entrance. So Hurricane Gaming were actually pretty fine in a lot of these team fights. But that last two macro plays,
it was just mental lapses, right? Where they just made critical mistakes. And this is why Hurricane Gaming have only wins against Sem9. It's just
I can't believe Sem9 died for this. Sem9 died for this game. Oh man. Oh, that's gotta hurt for Malaysia. But, congratulations for Impunity. Right now, only Hurricane Gaming is still in contention of overtaking their spot for playoffs. They do secure themselves a good 3-game cushion here, now advancing to 5 wins. and Hurricane Gaming have to catch up to that in the period of 4 games. A very difficult path, and I would say almost impossible for Impunity to now drop out of playoffs.
Yeah, at the very least, we saw how powerful this lethality Xayah is right now in the current meta, right? It's incredibly oppressive in the lane phase, incredibly oppressive at 2 items, very cheap 2-item power spike, of course, and it's incredibly safe even on those 2 items. So, like, I think Xayah is going to rise a lot here, but we also see the opposite end. This is why we don't see Kai'Sa. Is that even when 3 items came through, it just felt like it was not doing a whole lot.
I'm trying to think of any scene where Kai'Sa was the kind of defining factor in the team fight, and really nothing comes to mind. It's just so hard to play. I think single target catch is just too hard to play these days because of how many immunity abilities and just like stopwatches there are in the game. Yeah, it's much harder to pull the same comp off. Like, these comps were very popular in Season 8, especially when Uzi was around and Galio was overpowered as hell, and you could pick 5 games of Galio in a row and just win semifinals. But, you know, it's a very different environment today. ICU, once again, I think he had a terrific game, and just the 2 damage bars from Bank 2 and ICU.
I mean, but ICU also had that fatal blunder, right? He jumps in with hammer form on the Gwen and instantly gets deleted. He knows that they're pushing top and mid, yet he still goes into melee range, offers himself up, and that was really the back-breaking moment, right? Because you understand your team is taking Dragon, so they're going to take a little bit more time to get back to you, and then, you know, you're the second highest damage dealer on your team. You have to stay alive in those situations. Death timers are not 5 seconds. You don't get to respawn that quickly.
If you were in the ICU, we would call that unplugging the life support, basically. But MVP goes to Taco. Huge game from him, especially with that 3-man Dragon Rage kick that obliterated Aliyah, and find the defining comeback moment for Impunity. Well-deserved MVP, and also look at that kill participation, 88%. I've been saying this for a long time, but Taco is definitely, I would say honestly, even probably over 665 as kind of your new jungler to watch.
Absolutely, because of the fact that Taco also has been a lot more consistent. Yes, he's had some blips in the radar, but when you compare those blips compared to the blips that we've seen from 665, I would say the blips are a little bit more glaring when it comes to MFT and how they play around their jungler. Taco doing really well on this Lee Sin, and I mean, like, credit goes to him for finding very difficult angles against that Hurricane Gaming squad later on in the game.
Well done there by Impunity, and unfortunate for Sem9. We want to take a moment of silence for them. Like, they can't really blame Hurricane Gaming. Like, they haven't found a win themselves, so it's definitely more on themselves, but that does mean that we still have 9 teams in the running, up with only 8 spots left. We're going to find out who can advance even further, and there's still a lot of standings to be fighting over. We're going to go into Game 4 right after this break.